Hi, I'm Susan Blaine and welcome. I'm here with Larry O'Brien. I'm really excited to have you here participating in
I'm
this
so
series.
happy to be here with you.
Thank you so much. Larry, if you don't know him, he's an entrepreneur slash investor and a recovering politician. And we'll get to that in a bit. Hi, welcome to Sharing with Susan B, telling stories from the heart. We're looking to inspire, telling stories of struggle, vulnerability, and lessons learned. I know you grew up poor, so surviving was really a focus, but you had an interest in technology. You talked about your dad being a serial failed entrepreneur and having woodlawn ornaments, basement production going on. Your first job was at the Ottawa Journal. You were a paper boy as a kid. We've got a lot of paper boys in this series. Algonquin College School of Technology you went to in 1968 until 1971. You graduated from a new program at that time called Physics Technology. And you focused your learning on semiconductors, physics. And your first job, you got real lucky, didn't you?
I sure did. I ended up working with Mike Copeland and Terry Matthews at a company called Microsystems International.
Wow. That's where you met the boys, Mike Copeland, Terry Matthew, and Dick Foss.
Dick Foss, yeah.
Until it closed in 1971. And then...
73.
73. Communications Research Center, that's CRC. You worked for a couple of years. And you were part of a classified project.
Yeah.
2-year mobile communications project for the RCMP. And then once you finished that, you launched.
My ego was so big, I thought I could do anything. And I did. I started my very own business called Instacall. And I lovingly refer to it as my 6-month MBA course. Because here I had everything I touched had been successful. My ego had greatly expanded.
You thought you were ready.
And in 6 short months, I drove that company into bankruptcy. Not the corporate bankruptcy, but the personal bankruptcy, where you get your car towed away and you have your house, your apartment foreclosed upon. It was actually the worst period of time in my life, but it was also an opportunity to rebuild myself. And when I went back at it, I thought, my goodness, how could someone as smart as me screw up so badly? And the truth was, I wasn't that smart. And I didn't know how to make decisions. I didn't have a strong value system. Didn't have any of that stuff. So it was like literally coincident. The worst and the best moment of my life were at the same time, and that was failure.
You took the lessons really seriously, and I love what you said when we were talking about it, is that you created Larry 2.0 after that. You just took it all. And then Calian was really your...
2.5 years after I failed, and I spent those 2.5 years studying everything I could about business, about how to make decisions, and I learned that success, that business wasn't a single decision. It was thousands of decisions, and you had to learn how to make them properly. And so 2.5 years later, I started Calian with $35 investment.
Wow.
And today Calian is a publicly traded $350 million business. I retired from the company 30 years to the day from when I started it in 2012. And it was a lot of work for a lot of years.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, one of the surprising things that I found was properly set up. It's simple to build a business. Not easy.
No.
Simple.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of work, and you have to be in the right place at the right time, and you have to do a lot of things right. And I was lucky because I was 29 years old, and my humility was brought to the surface.
Yeah.
And I was still strong enough to get up, resilient enough to get up after bankruptcy. I had a minor heart attack.
That's right.
I had a whole bunch of things went bad. Like, it was literally black clouds over my life for 6 months. Started to get better. I was lucky enough to work for a wonderful guy called Merv Sullivan, and I spent the next 2 years working for him as his general manager, and I solidified all the skills I needed to go forward, and then I stepped out on my own again.
He was mayor of Ottawa for 2006 to 2010. Some of the things that people might not know, you were head of council that got the Lansdowne Live going. The new convention center, that's the Shaw Center now. The new trade show, EY, which came out of the Lansdowne, and the LRT, the tunnel infrastructure for...
Well, we had to cancel the first LRT because it was running right through the center of the city, and it would have been a disaster in my mind. And fortunately, a lot of people believed me after we got elected, and we were able to cancel one. It wasn't cheap. It was like $35 million cost. And I'm a builder. I'm not a closer, but it had to be done because when you're mayor of a city, you have to think forward 100 years. And I knew in 100 years this would have been seen as a huge, desperate mistake. And so we canceled it. It probably cost me any chance of re-election.
You've had a lot of interesting journeys
Yeah, I've been lucky.
professionally.
I've had a chance.
And you just had a birthday.
I just had 70 times around the
70
sun.
times.
70 times around the sun.
I love it. I love it. Congratulations and happy belated.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
What are you passionate about these days, Larry?
I love talking to people who want to start their own business because I love to pass along what I've learned to entrepreneurs in the very early stages of their business.
Yeah.
Are they enough of a space cadet? Are they enough of a street fighter? Do they know how to make decisions? What's their past background? What drives them? I love talking to people who are just thinking about getting into business or have gotten into business and said, "Oh my God, what have I done?" And that's
Because you know that feeling.
Oh, yeah, I really know that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's the one thing that I think when you get to a certain stage in your life, you have an obligation, a responsibility
Yeah,
to pass this back to people.
Totally
And
agree.
and if the more people I talk to who've been successful, the more people I talk to who've had more than one real screw up in their lives.
Oh,
and
yeah.
and what separates them from the rest is their ability to get up after they've been knocked to the ground and carry on and learn the lessons.
Resilience, for sure. I think your biggest business struggle we kind of touched on, which was that first failure.
And that was ego driven.
Yeah.
That was me thinking I couldn't be beaten. And trust me, everyone can be beaten.
Yes, indeed. What about personal struggle? What's been some of your
Well, there's a long list, but like most Irishmen, I struggle with alcohol, and I always try and I'll go through 2 or 3 years without drinking, and then I'll
for you.
get back into it. And whenever I've done anything really big, like when I started Calian, when I went into politics, whenever I've done something that's really important, I've always had to cut myself off from alcohol because it's an Irish thing, and so
It's a
that's one of-
distraction.
all through my life, because I was growing up seeing the worm's eye view of the world and the poor side. I've always been struggling with forms of depression and other things. It just nothing that would take me down, but enough to realize that you have to know yourself really well,
Yeah.
and you have to deal with the things, your own internal dragons,
Yeah.
before you can go on. And I don't think enough people are admit those sorts of things freely.
Yeah.
And I think those are very important things to. One of the tests I often ask somebody is, do you think you've got some psychological issues? And I would say every normal person says yes.
Yes.
And when someone says no, I'm actually really healthy, I say cuckoo. The natural order of everyone's life is a bit of suffering,
Yeah.
and all suffering is attached to is related to the attachment you have to a desire. A desire to have something or a desire to not have something. You have desires with clarity and desires with confusion. You have to be able to understand what desires are that are based on confusion, psychological confusion from an earlier part of your life. And
Yeah.
once you understand that, because some things are healthy to desire.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not?
And we do carry some things over from
That's
our
why
childhood.
people get married.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other series, right, Larry? So some of the lessons learned. I know you said after 15 years at Calian, you shifted in your personal growth. You really looked at failure as a school.
Yeah, I used to ask people a lot at Calian, what was the biggest mistake they made this week. I got it to people could talk about their mistakes.
Oh, I love that.
And it was really healthy, and anyone who, if you're not, and Einstein has said it often in his writings, if you're not making a mistake, you're not trying hard enough. There's nobody who can succeed without making mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's your understanding of what those mistakes were and how you made them that make you a better person, make the whole organization.
Yeah.
You share the mistakes that you made and you can move forward.
Now, one term that you used already in our conversation and in our earlier conversation you mentioned, I wanted to talk about what you mean by space cadet personality and street fighter.
Well, okay. I believe at the very beginning, you have to have a combination of personality traits. One is a space cadet dreamer, and that's what I was when I started Instacall. I was a dreamer. I had, oh man, everything's going to go my way, and the truth of the matter is this, the dreamer will always lose, because you have to have an executioner. You have to have a street fighter. You have to have someone in your camp that will throw nickels around like they're manhole covers. Someone who's, and so now as your company grows, you need less and less space cadet and more street fighter.
Okay.
But you always have to keep that, because the standard person, and I think even making the decision of becoming an entrepreneur is a really space cadet-y decision for most people, because there's a lot of people against you. The competition are against you. Your family is against you because they don't understand what it's going to mean.
Yeah.
Your lawyers and bankers and all those and accountants, they're only there for you as long as you have cash to pay them. And the most important person who's against you is yourself.
Yeah.
Because unless you've been brought up in a house where mom and dad talked about business every night, or you were an accountant who was an observant accountant and understood the realities, very likely you don't know the real issues relating to starting your own business. And so those are things that you have to, like when you make the decision to go into your own business, those are things that you have to look at. And the Space Cadet will come up with a dream, and hopefully the dream will not have a limitation, and the Street Fighter is a personality characteristic that gets it done.
Yeah.
But when I was building the company, I could be a street fighter. I could, if I wanted to say no to someone, I could rip up their business card and say no, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a personality trait, and something that people should be aware of, because there are times to be a dreamer.
Yeah.
But most of the time you want to be an executor, a fighter.
Yeah.
And a street fighter, by the way, doesn't like to fight. He likes to win.
Yeah.
They don't want the fight to go on long. They want it to be over quick.
Get it done.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self?
I think I might have said, be patient. I achieved most of I took the company public in 1993, 10 years after I started it in 1982. And that was my goal. I think I might have, so the next 5 years after that, or 10 years after that, I was kind of coasting. I probably should have put a much bigger goal in place. But the company's doing really well, so I can't complain about anything.
Yeah. And a lot of people are benefiting from that.
Yeah.
How about some rapid fire questions? Learn
Sure.
some fun facts about Larry O'Brien. Who's your favorite superhero, Larry?
Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill.
He won a war and he liked to drink.
Favorite food indulgence?
Indian food.
Yum.
Little India or Taj.
Okay. Someone you admire?
Two people I admire, Mike Copeland and Terry Matthews. Both of the crown princes of technology in the 70s, to be replaced today in 20 years with Harley Finkelstein and Toby.
Yeah,
They're
Tobias.
the people, Tobias, they're the people who are going to be.
Love it.
These are people who've made it and have all been knocked on the ground along the way.
It's a prerequisite. Something not too many people know about you.
I think today was the first time I ever talked about having to deal with depression.
Well, thank you for that. I know you're going to inspire some people. I appreciate that.
It's been a part of a bigger game.
That's right. Favorite movie, book, or quote?
I can certainly think my favorite book was a book called The Drifters by Michener. And it was about 6 or 7 people who were traveling around Europe enjoying life. And I read that when in my 20s, and I remember thinking, I don't think I'll ever be able to be a drifter. Now at 7 years old, I'm a drifter.
Yeah, you're a drifter. What's your definition of success in one sentence?
Making something better.
Larry O'Brien, I love chatting with you, and I'm so grateful to you for participating in this series. Where you can find out about Larry is on Twitter. Larry O'Brien's on Twitter and LinkedIn. Give me a high five.
If you need some help, I'm there for you.